well, this is weird.
What is going on?
I know, I was telling you before we got in here,
this?
like, it feels like when I have to review something on a Saturday, because I missed it, like, on the pre-screening, like, Allison and I reviewing, like, fucking Mother's Day or something. So they did a 6 p.m. showing for Tarzan, so I've got an hour and 40 minutes to kill before Purge election year starts.
I feel like this is their dastardly plan. Eventually it's going to get to midnight of Wednesday night. At this rate, they're gone. Pretty soon we'll be going to see these at like 1 o'clock. Be like, yeah, this was the previous screening at noon.
Oh, man. Yeah. I hope it doesn't revert back to midnight again, like that first summer we did this. And the second summer, too, actually.
Is it bad to say that Dark Knight was a blessing in disguise?
No. when they stopped doing the pre-screenings.
Yeah, it was when they stopped, so.
Yeah, they started up again, of all things, when Texas Chainsaw 3D came out. Man.
Well, I mean,
because it was a January release.
Nobody's shooting anybody in January.
There is no way I could talk for 100 minutes about this movie, because there was, first of all, I don't think it was 100 minutes long, or a little, I guess. I mean, what you said we got out of there.
The credits started to roll at 8 o'clock.
15, 20 minutes worth of previews in front of it.
Yeah, so it was. It supposedly had a runtime of like an hour and 49 when I checked Fandango. Then 20 minutes of it has to be credits because.
Well, somewhere in the midst of all of this Tarzan bullshit is a pretty good Samuel L. Jackson movie.
And Christoph Waltz.
Christoph Waltz is basically playing Belloc. He is not basically, he is playing Belloc. There's even the scene in the movie where, you know, he's captured our hero's girlfriend and they're having like a nice dinner together, like Belloc and Marion.
And she takes the knife. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess, yeah. Okay.
He's playing Belloc, but they give him Mola Ram's death scene at the end.
Yeah, they did, didn't they?
Yeah, this movie managed to make death by crocodile uninteresting, because you could tell they edited the hell out of that death scene. Smash cut to Tarzan's face. But Samuel L. Jackson, honestly, only good character in this movie.
Yeah, everybody else comes across as flat. They're really, way to make a Tarzan movie and make Tarzan the least interesting character in your movie. Like,
oh my god. When the better alternative is the John Derek version.
We did have more boobage in that one.
Yeah. Tarzan the Ape Man starring Bo Derek's tits.
Yeah.
This one, Tarzan, least interesting thing about this movie. So's Jane, honestly. Tarzan and Jane are two leads, the two worst things about this fucking movie.
You know, and I like Greystoke.
Mm-hmm. Oh, the Christopher Lambert one?
But I'm like, nobody can make a less interesting Tarzan than that right there with Lambert. Mm-hmm. They did it with this fucking movie. I don't know how. I don't know how.
When he was going through his castle at the beginning of the movie, I was sitting there like, you and I understand why they wanted Lambert to play this role. Because if there was a revelation that, like, this guy turns out to be a McLeod, I would buy it.
There can be only one.
Yeah. You're right. I would rather watch Greystoke than this movie. Yeah. I so would. Even like the Disney version, both of them have animated animals all throughout the movie. The only difference is, at least in this one, like, they don't have Rosie O'Donnell's fucking voice coming in going, "Yo, Tarzan, what up?" I think I would rather watch this one than the Disney Tarzan, honestly.
Probably.
But at that one, Tony Goldwyn, way better Tarzan than Skarsgård.
True.
I totally understand why they did not really have any of his lines in any trailer in this movie.
What lines?
Yeah.
He's got maybe a page of dialogue, if that.
Probably.
Yeah.
And it's so flat. It's so monotone. Every time he talks, it feels like it's not even coming out of his body. It feels like it's either ADR or they did some post-production work on it to make it sound just more gravelly.
And the sucky thing is the story's actually interesting.
The story's not bad.
The idea is actually interesting. It's just done terribly.
Well, it's all over the place.
Yeah.
Like, okay, it's setting up to where Christoph Waltz wants these diamonds. In order to get the diamonds, he's got to deliver Tarzan to... Was that Jaimin Hunsu?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I couldn't tell, because... Like, they're right. Like, black don't crack. Like, he looks the same that he did 20 years ago. So I'm like, either he doesn't age, or it's a young actor who fucking looks like him.
It can almost be said the same about Samuel L., too, though. He wasn't looking all that old in this one either.
No, they have an unfortunate wig on him.
Yeah.
But other than that, like, I leaned over to you halfway into this movie and went, well, we're finally getting that Shaft in Africa remake.
Yes.
Like, one quick rewrite. Just make this a sequel to his Shaft movie. How did you just skip Shaft's big score? Just go right to Shaft in Africa. That's... Samuel Jackson I really liked in this. He's, giving a performance, which not many other people in this movie are. He's funny in the movie. He's got good one-liners. He's a sympathetic character, because he's kind of just this normal dude who's thrown into this world of CGI bullshit.
Well, he actually has an arc, too. You actually understand his reasonings for doing everything he does in this movie. You cannot say the same for everyone else. It's like they shoehorn him in.
No, his backstory, way more interesting, and they don't even show it. They just explain it in dialogue. Yeah. Meanwhile, there are so many scenes where a character, for no reason really, will just pause so we can have a flashback of shit that honestly should have just been summed up in the first 20 minutes of the movie. Maybe it was originally, and they just decided to scatter it throughout the goddamn thing. Just someone will be sitting there talking, all of a sudden look up, reflect, and it's Tarzan getting the shit beat out of him by, I'm sorry, I don't care if you were raised in the fucking woods or in fucking Chatham. If you get your back beaten on several times by a fucking 1,000-pound gorilla, you're not getting up from that shit, man.
Well, technically he didn't, though. Like, not the first time.
Okay, the fact that he could eventually walk again. The fact that he's alive.
Right. Hanging out with Ed gave him super strong back muscles.
They CGI his hand.
Yeah.
His hand. Yeah. What was that?
It's like, it suddenly goes from, like, normal human hand to ape hand, even, too. It wasn't even like it was...
Manimal's hands are more impressive. Jesus Christ. Hand. They CGI'd his hand.
Yeah.
Oh, God. I can't even get impressed by any stunt work in this movie. It's all CGI spectacle. I was gonna
say, what stunt work?
It's all just CGI spectacle. Like, if you were thrilled by, like, fucking Mutt Williams swinging around on vines with cartoon monkeys and shit like that, whoa, this would be the greatest fucking movie you've ever seen in your life.
You would have think in the ensuing 6 years since that movie came out, they would have figured out a better way to make it look good, but nope.
No.
Nope, nothing that happened in the ensuing 6 years makes this look any better than Crystal Skull.
And what makes Tarzan just such a nothing character in this movie, other than the performance, and it's just not very well written, is it's other characters who are usually saving his ass through the movie. It's either Samuel L. Jackson or it's the gorillas.
Yeah. Well, and the whole idea of Tarzan is this character that is trying to balance life in these two distinctly different worlds. Mm-hmm. That's what has always made him an interesting character, is that dichotomy of trying to rein in his wildness while he's back over in England and vice versa.
Oh, but we see none of that
and
in this
none
movie.
of it. There's nothing. He's just completely flat. There's no like distinct switch.
No.
He plays just one the whole way, just one level.
No, yeah, it feels like we're watching a sequel. It does,
Yeah.
because there's no... By the beginning of the movie, he's already domesticated. Like, he's already living in his castle. He already knows how to use the toilet, not
like
piss
that.
on the rug. Yeah, he's already married. He's already got Jane. And then, you know, he goes into the woods and takes his shirt off, runs off with some monkeys and stuff. And Margot Robbie in this movie must have been doing this at the same time as playing Harley Quinn, because she appears to be using the same fucking voice that I see in the trailers for Suicide Squad. Really shrill, shrieking...
Yeah, I mean, I could see that. Although, while it works for the Harley Quinn character, it just doesn't. Like, no, I can. Now that you say that, now I'm thinking back through her dialogue, going, yeah, she did kind of have that twang in her voice. Well, this is the other thing too, is because she's Australian.
Yeah.
That may just be her default American.
It could be.
You know what I mean? Just that's what she defaults to in her voice.
That does not sound like any kind of 1800s thing. It sounds like fucking just California girl shtick.
Right.
Like, I'm sorry. Like, at least the John Derek one was a fucking cheeky-ass softcore movie through and through. This movie is supposed to be kind of dark. That has sequences in it that look like they can't decide on whether to make Tarzan or a remake of Cannibal Holocaust.
And here's the, like, okay, I understand that humor is maybe a bit more crass than it was then, or maybe a bit less refined. But I do not see the need to say, lick his nuts in a Tarzan movie. No, just no. There is no...
Yeah, that was weird.
That was... Yeah, it really just... It just did not fit.
You know what I would rather... Speaking of
Licking nuts.
humor, like... You know whose nuts I'd rather lick?
Billy Zabka's.
Robert Zidar's. You know what I would rather watch than this movie? And this is... Actually, I really like this movie a lot. And it uses humor better. And even has, like... similar kind of setting and plot. You remember The Rundown with Dwayne Johnson?
Oh yeah, and like Sean William Scott, yeah.
And Christopher Walken?
Yes.
I was kind of thinking that a few times in this movie. I was like, you know, I'd rather watch that movie. That's a lot more fun than this one. It's also about crooked shit with diamonds and... You know the weird thing about this movie is... Okay... This movie is not one of the worst movies I've seen this year. It's honestly just kind of forgettable.
Yeah.
But you know how you can just see a bomb while watching it? That doesn't mean that it's like horrible or awful or even through and through bad. It's just you can't put your finger on it. You just know it when you're looking at it. Like Lone Ranger or John Carter. You just know it when you see it, from the trailers to all of the advertising, even sitting there watching it. It's like, at least in something like Heaven's Gate, I can really be impressed by the scope and the world that's been created and all of the sets and everything they built for it. I can't even get impressed by that here, because it's all like, oh, this is what Heaven's Gate would have looked like if most of it was CGI. I'm not impressed.
Yeah, that was another one. You mentioned John Carter, another great series of stories that just had a forgettable movie. Like this, I would parallel these two movies. Although this one probably doesn't have the budget that they went all out on John Carter.
This has got to have an over $100 million budget.
You think?
With all of the CGI that's in this. Movie.
To be fair, it is cheap CGI. It's like bargain
I've seen
bins.
Worse, but
true.
there's a lot of it in this. Like the whole climax is like death by stampede. Like, if I were to...
That's
Let me
true.
try to guess. Like, okay, you looking it up?
Yeah,
Let me try to
begin.
guess. I will guess this probably has like $150 million budget.
Fuck.
Because I
Damn,
would not
that's-
put it past Warner Brothers to give this movie a
That is a
$150
lot of
million
money, man.
budget. Like, Warner Brothers needs to slow it the fuck down, man. Between, like, this, Jupiter Ascending, Pan, Batman v Superman, they gotta calm their shit with their fucking budgets.
Yeah, because they really need to dial it back. They're hurting
Mm-hmm.
already. Although I guess Batman versus Superman made most of his money back, but
Yeah,
holy motherfucking son of a
Am I right?
estimated budget according to IMDb,
Yeah.
$180 million.
That does not surprise me.
Where did that money go? I mean, that
The
was
effects,
literally wow.
The effects,
Because it wasn't... Okay, here's my thing. It's not like... I mean, okay, Samuel L. Christoph Waltz is probably commanding a good money. Skarsgård has not... Is not a big enough star to command that much
little
money.
to Margot Robbie.
Even
like,
Margot Robbie maybe more, but...
there are sets in the film. I mean, it's not all CGI or anything like that. So I imagine there's a good chunk that is going to location and sets in the film.
God, but Jesus.
They're not gonna make that back. We were at the pre-screening for this movie, and it was in the tiny theater. It was in the
Right.
tiny theater, which there were people in there, but if that same crowd was in one of the larger theaters in there, it would have looked dense.
Oh, yeah. No, it would have...
Oh yeah, I can't imagine.
Now
Maybe
I
I'm gonna
kinda-
eat my words and be wrong, but this movie is not gonna do that well.
No.
It's not, like I said, like this movie. It feels like what it is,
Okay.
an overblown, over-budgeted flop.
And this movie did not have as big a budget as John Carter of Mars.
John Carter had what, 250?
$263 million.
Jesus Christ! I thought that was a better movie than this one was.
And it only grossed worldwide just $20 million more than that. So you think, so they lost... They lost a good chunk.
Something that has like $180 million budget has got to at least make probably double that back.
Well, yeah,
to
because
break
you figure,
even.
because that's just the budget for the film. You got to
Yeah.
figure marketing, all that,
I mean,
added in. Yeah, it's just...
that's one thing they've said about Batman v Superman is for that to maybe not break even, but to make him feel a little comfortable, it had to have at least made like $1 billion or something
Yeah.
like that. And it made
just-
what, 700, 800?
I think 800 something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What the fuck world are we living in where it's like it brought in $800 million and oh man, disappointment.
Here's the nice thing for that movie though, is it's going to make a killing in home video. It'll make a killing.
Oh, absolutely.
That's why I think they're not as concerned. They're
Oh,
still
sure.
concerned, but
It's
with
not-
their release and with the extended edition.
Yeah.
Fuck me. How much longer do you need that movie to be? It's still an incoherent mess for most of the part of it.
That's not franchise killer. Like,
No.
we're still gonna see other movies in that universe.
Bring me more
we're still
Batman.
gonna see.
Bring
oh,
me
yeah.
that.
And
Give me
I'm-
more Batman. That was fun.
Yeah, totally. Like I as well didn't like that movie. Like a lot of other people didn't like that movie. But I'm excited for more Batman stuff.
Well, and this was the other thing that kind of annoyed me with Man of Steel that they kind of started to fix with Batman vs. Superman was the interaction between Lois and Clark. Not Lois and Superman. The interaction between, because that's like the original, like all the Donner stuff. Their cheeky interactions, all
Yeah.
of that, made those fun movies. For some reason, they do not put enough emphasis on the fact that Lois and his parents ground him to Earth, ground him in his humanity, and it just bothers me that they waste someone like Amy Adams in these movies. She's wasted in those.
Yeah.
She really is. She's just scenery.
Well, they still had. Lois and Clark still had slightly better chemistry in that movie than Tarzan and Jane did.
This
in
is true.
film.
Oh yeah. No. Holy shit. Yeah, the chemistry between Tarzan and Jane in this, yeah, you're right, was just...
I don't even know how they fell in love, other than, like, she just wants to do him. Like, because seriously, it's like it shows them meet when he's just sniffing her all up and down, and then they're married. Okay.
Yeah.
Sure. And you can't do this whole, like, in-jokey thing of, like, where when she's kidnapped and Christoph Waltz says, now scream, and then she goes, like, what do you think I am, a damsel or something? Like, I'm sorry, you can't do that fucking meta, like, in-joke kind of thing like that in a movie where she still spends 80% of it kidnapped. And where the bulk of the plot is him rescuing her.
That's true.
And
that seemed like a one-off to not piss off people who'd be like, "Oh, she's just a victim." I feel like they just do that. Yeah, she is. I mean, she fights, but she's still kidnapped. It's
and they try doing, like, really, when they have other characters say, like, hey, you're Tarzan, you're Tarzan, like, you Tarzan, like, she Jane, like, nah. They try throwing stuff like that in there, and the nut joke. This is kind of a dark, ugly movie to look at. It really is. Like, they try making it gritty, but also throwing in random jokes here and there that aren't in there enough. So when they do happen, they feel really out of place, like the nut joke.
They tried to make a movie a la the Peter Jackson King Kong.
That is exactly what the gorillas look like in this movie.
Yeah, and just the overall tone of both of these films is so similar. It's like, okay, yeah.
I like that movie a lot better than I like this, but like there's looks and tone that are kind of similar. The action was way better in King Kong than in this. In this, it's all over the fucking place. It's a lot of shaky cam. It's a lot of really dizzying CGI shit. But the gorillas look so much like King Kong in that movie that I'm like, are they like the size of a fucking skyscraper or something?
It's all giant world here.
Yeah. Food of the gods, man. I would say, like, because, man, Samuel Jackson is good in this movie.
He's a lot of fun. Well, and I think in a movie where more of the characters were fleshed out and performed better, he might not have stood out as well as he did. But because everybody else was just flat, his performance just kind of rose above everything else.
By far away is he the only good character in this movie. And because of that, I'm like, well, if you're gonna watch this, just Netflix it or something. To see, like, somewhere in the midst of all this, an okay Samuel Jackson movie surrounded by, like, a bunch of bullshit. But don't see this in the theater. Yeah, this is not worth seeing. This is so not worth seeing in the theater. Maybe Netflix it or something. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's... You know what? If you want to go watch a Tarzan movie, go rent some of the old Johnny Weissmuller stuff. I mean... Johnny
Weissmuller!
It's sad that the high water mark for this character was then.
Oh, man. What about that Casper Van Dien movie? What was that? Like,
Jesus.
Tarzan and the City of Gold or some shit like that?
Oh, my God.
The Lost Empire of City. I can't remember what that was called. I think that was one of those movies that went direct to the second run theater.
Oh, Jesus. But I really think that with a few tweaks, this movie could have been a whole hell of a lot better. Now, granted, those few tweaks would, completely take people out of this movie.
Like its main characters?
Yes. But like I said, I really feel like there is a really good story just sitting there, just waiting for the right people to act it out.
Make Tarzan and Jane just the supporting characters and just edit it and make Samuel L. Jackson the lead character in this movie. Then you'd have an alright 45-minute movie.
Yeah, you kind of would. But like I said, I think overall that story, this story is what got this movie made, not anybody in it. Because I'm sure I can see somebody at Warner Brothers going, this is a really fun story. This is a really neat idea. And then they started casting, and they just threw it down the toilet.
It was so weird in the opening scene where there's a prologue, and it's Christoph Waltz saying, like, I want those diamonds, and Jaimin Hunsu, like, bring me this person, and he's like, you know the name. And it cuts to the opening credits, and it's the Legend of Tarzan with the trademark symbol on it.
I'm like, what the fuck? I forgot about that treatment. I'm like, yeah, because at first I saw it, I'm like, do we fucking really? Do we really need to know that this... Like, we don't fucking know this character's trademarked. Seriously.
That's why he couldn't say his name before it cut to the credit.
Right.
We know
He's like,
royalties.
We hadn't paid the royal licensing yet, so we just had to...
That was ridiculous.
That must have been the 5-minute, like, test screening they did to actually make the rest of this movie. Here, let's film this little cutscene right here.
Yeah.
And then they're like, oh, okay. Why didn't you say his name? We haven't licensed it yet. Oh, okay, I gotcha.
God damn it. I'm glad you noticed that too, because I was like, what the shit
I'm trying to think of any other movie I've seen, even like 10 years, that had a fucking trademark symbol in the fucking title screen.
If it did, I didn't notice.
Yeah, well, because it's not fucking gigantic right at the end of Tarzan. It's like...
I just remember, Freddy's coming. Trademark. From the Nintendo game.
Oh, God. No, okay, video game's a completely fucking different story. They didn't know what they were doing then, so they just trademarked everything. But yeah, fucking... I was like, what the fuck? That's weird.
I mean, I've seen studios' names before a movie title.
I mean, unless they're trademarking the title? Because I don't know that all of the Tarzan is... I'm trying to think if it's not in the public domain. I thought it was. But maybe if the... trademarks work differently than copyright, though, so it's...
I mean, maybe if there's an Asylum Tarzan movie out, then that means... Yeah, really, anyone can do their own Tarzan shit.
Yeah. Well, like this, because it's the same thing like with John Carter. John Carter's public domain. But...
Yeah, because there was an Asylum John Carter that had Tracy Lords in it.
Oh, she'll act in anything. God bless you, Tracy Lords.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna go grab some dinner or something. I've probably still got an hour to kill before Purge election year starts.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I do. I got an hour to kill, so I'm gonna go grab some dinner somewhere.
Ridiculous.
Later.
See ya.